and this is somebody asked me to work on this one, is, why should Facebook enter the dating market? And then how would you do it, right? So it's sort of like a strategy question and then a more like execution product design question. So we're going to treat the first part today. If we have time, we may start doing the design, but I think that that probably is going to take another session. So let's start with the first, part of this question, which is, why should Facebook, why should Facebook enter dating market? Okay, and so this is a typical sort of market entry question. There are different ways of doing it. I found a way that is really good by reading books and stuff. And I highly recommend this book if you haven't read it yet. Playing How to Win. And so let's just think about how you would approach this question. What are the right things to look at, right? So if you're in a business and you're thinking of entering a new market, right? What are sort of the things that you would think of? Let's throw it out there.
I think I would think about two things. One is the market big enough, and two, is the market growing?
Okay.
Well, also the competition.
Okay. Where did I put this? So competition. Okay. What else?
I think to kind of go back to like Facebook mission of helping people create communities, one of the best ways to really leverage the fact that people are connected to so many friends and by virtue of that, they're connecting to friends of friends, it already creates like a very good pool of people where there's a great potential of finding for finding people that they might end up liking or dating. So to be able to take advantage of that pool, and also just the fact that so that would be the goal essentially. Just the fact that
basically what I'm hearing is, I hate this. I thought that this was working. Basically, is there a competitive advantage? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Is there a competitive advantage?
Sorry, for this question, couldn't you use the Porter's 5 forces framework, which is like the buyer power, the supplier power, the customers, the competition, and the company's core strengths? Like those are the sort of
things. We're using some part of that, right? And actually, it's not. It's actually it's the 5 forces, not much Porter's. Porter's is like supplier and the provider and.
But like, exactly. So you sort of are like customer, collective customer power, and I mean, there's so many frameworks.
Porter's doesn't fit very well here.
Yeah,
fits very well here is 5 C's, right?
5 C's, yeah. That's
what we're doing here.
Yeah.
So so market opportunity, competition, competitive advantage. What else?
The customers.
What about customers?
Like, what are the different customers segments? Like, what are they priced at? Like, is the segment growing? That sort of thing.
I think that what you want to say rather is, hey, are our customers the same customers as the dating customers, right?
Yeah. Yes.
That's really the question that you want to ask.
Yeah.
So is it, do we have the right segment? Okay, that I put in terms of, let's put this here, is segment right? Okay, what else?
Would you put demand and market opportunity in the same bucket? Because so many of Facebook users are young people, and that's something that they're very interested in. So there's an obvious demand for that. So would you kind of bucket that same as like the market opportunity, because there are so many apps that are being successful in this space?
No, I wouldn't. I think that when you're talking about, market opportunity, you know, that has to do with what is the revenue size of that market. Okay, so for example, for dating, you know, and I don't think that Facebook is specifically competing with them, you know, because for Facebook, they're not going to charge subscriptions for dating. That would be absurd. But if you look at the dating market, that's how they make their livelihood, right? So what's the size of that market? You know, that's the market opportunity, how fast it's growing, right? So, and yeah, demand, you can say demand, you can convert that into, okay, how many subscriptions are, is this company going to have? And you can size the number of subscriptions, you know, by the price of the subscriptions, by the number of people. So that's included already, market opportunity. That's part of sizing the market. Okay, so I think that we have really the core of things that I wanted to look at. Now, to answer this question, you know, you can go and say there are different ways. I'm going to propose one way that to me really puts a story, okay, into this analysis. You can say the 5 C's and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to look at, you know, what's the size of this market, the growth. I want to look at the competition. Is it hard to get into this market? I want to look at the customer. Is it the right segment? Are we, you know, are those people that are dating actually our customers on Facebook? You know, and do that. But I recommend a different way, which is, let's look at first, to answer this question, I would say, is there a fit, you know, in terms of the business with Facebook, okay, between dating and Facebook? You know, if the answer is yes, then I continue with my analysis and say, okay, does Facebook have a competitive advantage? Okay. Because what happens is you want to be number one, right? There's no point in entering a market if you're going to be number two, right? So you better get into a market where you are really going to erase everybody else because you have something that nobody else has, okay? And that gives you a sustainable competitive advantage. All right, so that's one thing, right? So, you know, from this book, this is like, how do you win? How to win. Okay. That's your competitive advantage. The other one is like, okay, do you have core capabilities to actually support, you know, this business, you know, support your competitive advantage, right? And under core capabilities, we can put here, you know, do you have customer knowledge? You have customer knowledge, you know this market, right? Do you know how to market your product? You know, marketing knowledge. Do you have partners? You know, and other things that you can think of here. Technology, of course. You know, it could be suppliers if it's some kind of manufacturing and things like that. And then the other one is, okay, now we're going to come to this. Okay, I have competitive advantage. I have core capabilities to support this. Now, is this worth it? Is this market really worth it, right? So you can do an NPV analysis here, right? Or you know, and to do that, maybe, you know, you have to actually size the opportunity in terms of dollars, you know, revenue, and then, you know, compare it with your cost, right? So, and then if the NPV is really high, you know, the opportunity is really high, it's growing again, yeah, of course, you know, let's jump in. We're going to erase the competition. So now you have sort of like a coherent story here, right? Is there a fit? Do I have an advantage? Do I have the core capabilities to support this? And am I more going to make money? Does that make sense?
Yep.
Before we start onto that, shouldn't we ask the question, what is the objective from entering into this market?
Yes, of course. That's a very good point, right? That's what we're gonna do at the beginning too here. And
If
so
the objective is user growth, we may not even care about the NPV at that point.
so here we can put, what's the goal for Facebook, right? What's the goal for Facebook? All right. So what is the goal? Why do you think, if I were to do this, why would I do this? I think there's some obvious answer here, but what do you guys?
Probably to do one or more of two things. First, to foster and create new friendships or connections, rather, to generalize it a little bit, which contributes to Facebook's moat as a company. And two would be to increase the time spent on the platform around those connections, which is sort of
So what I'm hearing is you're saying, hey, we need to, grow the network, and also, time spent per user, which translates into ad dollars. Right?
Yeah.
Good goal. Right? Yeah. I agree with you. Right? I would say that the emphasis is mostly on this one, time spent. Because I think that in terms of this kind of application for dating, Facebook is basically almost saturated in the United States, and I would imagine Europe too. So I think that they're not going to grow here. And where people are using these dating applications is not in the third world. I think that people, date in the third world countries in the old-fashioned way, which is you actually meet somebody. Whereas I think in the more advanced countries, people are more lonely, right? And so they need these kinds of tools. So I think that the emphasis is mostly on, hey, we need people to spend more time, right, on the platform. We need them to come back, and engage more so that we can sell them more ads, right? At the same time, you're providing something of value, right? So that they meet people, their soulmates.
What was the other point there? What was the other point?
No, that's it. It's basically
Okay.
increasing time spent, and add value by providing this service to people, right?
Got it.
All right. So now let's go to, let's look at the fit. So reasons why dating is a good fit for Facebook. What do you think?
So as I had mentioned earlier, I think it's just a very natural progression of what Facebook is currently. Like the Facebook right now is more focused on friendship across all different levels and all generations. And when we think about meaningful connection, dating is a very natural progression towards that, or something that's just very going back to the core motto of Facebook of helping people create more meaningful connections. I think it's just a very natural progression towards the fact that
and you can say it more sexy than this, Stefana. If you were in the interview, you would say, what, this makes sense to me because Facebook's mission is to give people the power to build community, and bring them closer together. So what better than dating, right? It's you bring people closer together, and at the same time, those people, if they get married and form a new family, they are building community, right? So it's
question.
In terms of the mission, right?
I had a question here.
Yeah.
So when we say fit, are we asking, is it in keeping with the company mission? Is that, or are we saying, is Facebook fit to provide that service? Which way is it?
So I think it's both, right?
Because I would think the second one, the competitive advantage would be is Facebook fit to provide this service, right? Because that's where my confusion is, right? Because you could argue that the first one would be
does this market fit within the Facebook business, Okay, that's more of the question.
Okay, perfect. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So good question. So yeah, so we got the mission fits right there. What other thing is, yeah, this is a great fit because now we go back to this, it enables a person to grow its network, grow person's network.
So how would the network grow because of dating?
Oh, network of friends, okay? So
Are you saying if the date doesn't go well, you end up being friends? Is that the idea?
no, so usually when you are dating, you meet people that you would have never met, right?
Yes.
Except for dating. So it enables, Facebook to grow the network of friends of a person, right? Which fits within the idea of what Facebook is doing, right?
Okay.
With this dating application, people are going to be able to grow the group of friends. Again, it fits within the business, the value that Facebook gives to people.
Okay.
It also strengthens, I would say, connections, right? This dating thing. Basically, people that didn't know each other before now know each other, and they're strengthening that connection. So all these things that are about dating, they fit within the Facebook business model, the Facebook business idea, right? Okay, so I think that's pretty clear. So let's go to the competitive advantage. And before we talk about this, I think it would be good to think about what would be the perfect dating service for you. Like what does it mean to provide really the best, right? What is success?
But you'd probably to get the best recommendation. Sorry, go ahead.
Best recommendations? Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, because Facebook has so much institutional knowledge about. Oh, I can hear.
Uh-huh. Correct.
I'm not sure. Are you talking? Because I hear an echo. Okay, yeah. So anyway, I was saying, yeah, because Facebook has so much institutional knowledge about you already because of your interests, your events, the groups you're part of. They basically know everything about you, and presumably they know everything about all of their customers. So then they're best positioned to sort of figure out who would get along with whom the best and kind of match them together. So unlike your Coffee Meets Bagel or any of your other random dating websites where you don't have that information, it's just sort of like you throw something at the wall and see if it sticks. With Facebook, you can take a much more directed approach to that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So a great dating service would be one that matches you perfectly with your soulmate.
Oh,
right?
I don't believe in soulmates, but sure.
All right. So, okay. So we got that. So now let's think about all the advantages, the key, the unfair advantage that Facebook has, and let's list them.
I think one of them is most dating apps already use Facebook as sort of like a verification. So if you think about Tinder, you most likely have to connect to your Facebook or Instagram for people to verify who you are. So it's already used as a tool for dating. And now they can actually incorporate that into their own platform in the sense, and that gives them competitive advantage.
Can you repeat that, Bumi? I'm not quite sure I understand.
I was saying that most dating apps already use Facebook or Instagram in some extent to actually help them verify users. So when you do sign up to like Tinder, they ask you to connect to your Facebook or your Instagram, and then users have that as an opportunity to sort of verify themselves in that sense.
I doubt that Facebook actually has the knowledge that that person is part of Tinder.
I mean, if you're using a third-party application to log into Tinder, then they would have that. They already have that.
Because it's making a call to that specific app and pulling information from it. So then
From
Facebook
yeah,
APIs
it's
would have.
basic information, but at the same time, it's still information that Facebook is aware of.
Okay. All right.
Because those apps are calling the Facebook APIs, right? So
I
Facebook
would put this as then, would say, inside knowledge of competitors.
I would kind of, these are some points I mentioned earlier, but I guess there's just like the sheer numbers. There are just a lot of people on Facebook. So the user base definitely outnumbers, I would say, any other dating apps out there. And
Yeah.
just like by sheer numbers.
That's actually one of the main things that I thought. So look at the high level picture and think of in those terms, and that's quite correct, right? So already, huge pool of people.
And the other part that I mentioned was that, like when it comes to like kind of relationships that work out, people like to know like not just the part of yourself that you put out, but a holistic view of like what your friends think about you, what your relationships are with your friends, and what your political opinion is. Like people think about all of these things when they're looking for quote unquote the one. So
They already have, you can summarize it in saying they already have personal data.
And like also this is something I mentioned earlier, but like the friends of friends connection. So you can see like, oh, I can ask when I see like, oh, this person is in my friends network, so this helps me understand like this person more. And
you put this as a social graph. Okay?
Yes, social graph.
Okay. What else? I think one key thing that I notice about this is that Facebook doesn't need to charge, okay, because they get the revenue from ads.
Right.
So it's free. That's a major advantage. Right?
Yep.
I mean, the thing is, the most of the like apps, I mean, I guess the basic version tend to be free, even though they're like very limited. But I think Tinder's free, Coffee Mates Bagel is free.
But they all have some monetization built into it for premium services.
Yeah, but that's definitely one of the biggest things. Like the whole whole Toro service will never be really charged for the Facebook users.
So you're saying Tinder doesn't charge?
Yeah, I think there's a basic free version of.
None of them charge. I mean, like
they don't.
Not for the basic service.
No. Some of them do charge.
Oh shit, you're right. Actually, some of if you want,
But I don't think that's the point.
Yeah.
I think that the idea here is that Facebook has other revenue streams.
Yeah, they don't need to charge.
We'd be a loss leader in this if it needs to be.
Okay.
I think they have the technology to actually build on an even more private and very curated list of users. So privacy is something that gives them an advantage. But apart from that, they also have the opportunity to actually curate even better because they have more data.
Yeah. So, I would put now here, so Bhumi, I think that the third part that you mentioned, so these are huge advantages. So let's mention now core capabilities, okay? And I think, Bhumi, what you mentioned goes here. Their core capabilities to actually make this work, right? Have a dating service and supporting also this competitive advantage. Keep having a huge pool of people, keep accumulating a lot of personal data, keep having this very complex social graph and having everything free. Is one thing is like they have this very advanced technology.
You could probably use that to give some kinds of recommendations on various date ideas and stuff like that based on the events you've been to in the past, the events they've been to in the past, that sort of thing.
Yeah. They have huge computing power, very sophisticated algorithms, right? And, they probably have a very selected, best scientists. I would say people here, best scientists, because this matching of people stuff requires a lot of complex algorithms. Other capabilities, I would say, that are, if we start thinking, and maybe we go through the customer journey or the user journey of dating apps, but one huge thing that they have, and that you guys mentioned also, was this, they can automate the personal profile. So how you go to these sites and you have to create a profile, and that takes hours, right? They can do it in a blink. So that's a great capability, right? What else? Think about the social feed, right?
Well,
People are posting their life like real time, right?
I mean, so are you saying that the technology, like you could use some sort of machine learning to try to figure out based on their feed and use that into some sort of an algorithm match, like that kind of thing? Like figure out political affiliations or interests and that sort of thing?
Yeah, as people are entering events of what they're
Yeah.
doing,
Yeah, events would be easy. Like that's the structured data stuff. Like you know exactly what events you're going for, what
Right.
organizations you're part of. But like even
I don't think the algorithms are that easy. So I think that you need an enormous amount of, first of all, computing power and very sophisticated algorithms to do very good matching, right?
it would be even more difficult to do that from the social feed because that's just free text. So you'd actually need like some sort of a machine learning algorithm because it's not structured data, right? It's just free text.
Yeah, right. So, okay, so,
I have one more capability.
Mhm.
So this could either fall under like future feature list or something that they're already capable of doing now. But maybe the like ability to get recommendation from people. Like let's say if I found someone through my friends network that I matched to, then I have the opportunity, or they can automate like the ability for me to ask my friend, like, oh, how is this person? Do you know this person? What can you tell me about this person? Something like that.
I'm sorry, what did you say, Stefana? Again, can you repeat that?
Recommendations.
Yeah, like references, essentially, like references. So like, yeah.
Yeah, sure. I think that also that's another core capabilities. And I think that's something that you mentioned, Safana, was right here, which is, your friend. I don't know about you guys, but I think that the best matches are usually your friends introduce you to somebody, right?
Yeah.
Because your friends know you and they know the other person. And so I think that's the best way to meet your soulmate or something, right? So here is like another capability that they have, which is, friends recommendations, right? Sort of like they play Cupid. All right. So up to now we have looked at, the goal is to increase time spent, more at dollar. So how are we going to get people? Well, this dating app fits within the mission of Facebook. It increases the networks of friends of a person, strengthens the connections. Facebook does have a huge competitive advantage over competitors in this space. They have inside knowledge other competitors don't have, huge pool of people, they have very personal data, they have the social graph, which is huge, and they don't need to charge for it. And they have core capabilities to support that, right? In terms of the technology, scientists, they can automate a lot of the things that are manual in the competitive space. They have real-time feed, which means more transparency. They have people that can recommend, all these core capabilities. Let's go now into, so up to now, this feels like, oh yeah, this seems like a really good thing. But let's look at how, what the market opportunities in this, right? And I would say, how do we size that, right? How do we size that market? because Facebook is going to make money on ads, right? It's not making money on subscriptions. So how do we translate this opportunity into dollars? Thoughts?
I mean, it would so the same. I mean, just build off their existing monetization model, which is ad based. So if you're using Facebook, you're spending more time on it now for dating, and presumably you're using it to do various events and stuff like that. And so you have ad dollars there. Alternatively, they could even try to sell you like various different experiences on dates. Like they can we'd make reservations for you at so and so restaurant, and like there's so many ways to monetize this.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. So let's start with the fundamental one, which is ad dollars.
Yeah. So actually, if I was to wrap it up, I'd say like ad dollars and value added services.
Yeah, ad dollars and value added services. Okay. So let's count just ad dollars right now, because the value added services, we will have to design them within the app, and
right.
Let's just start with something basic.
Yep.
So I would say, okay, so let's size that opportunity. And so how would you do it? Right? How would you size these extra dollars that are gonna come from this application? These extra ad dollars. How would you start sizing that, estimating that?
The increase in engagement time. Increase in, I guess, number of visits, the number of sessions, the length of each session, because that's what their ad monetization would be using, right?
Okay, so I will start with number of users, okay? And then times number of sessions.
Right, times the session length, average session length. And this is a delta, obviously. It's the increase in all of that.
Times session length.
Yeah, average session length.
Okay. What else? Where are you putting the dollars?
Let's see. I guess then, then it would be, I guess, the number of ads displayed per session times the dollar value per ad, something like that.
Okay. So let me rewrite this. Okay. So I will give it this session length. Okay. So I would say, okay, so number of users.
Yeah.
Times the number of sessions, okay, times the number of,
ads per session.
Per session, ad dollars.
Sure, okay.
Yeah. Now, these I will put these sessions per day. And then times 365 days.
Yes.
Okay, to do revenue in a year. Okay.
Although, I mean, another way to do it would be to remove the 365 and then just look at the increase in each of these. But either way, because ultimately you'd have to subtract this from the original, or you have to subtract the original ad revenue from this, right? Because the number of users, number of sessions, and dollar per session is already there in Facebook. It's just going up because of the dating feature.
Yeah. So what I suggest is the following. Okay. Remember, when you are doing an estimation, the most important thing is that you do it in a logical way, and that the interviewer understands every single step that you're doing.
Got it. Okay, got it.
So the most important thing is to start with the top equation. Okay. So this is like a tree, and say, okay, you know what? First of all, this is how I'm going to compute this. The number of users are going to be our 20, 30 somethings, that are looking for love. Maybe the lonely ones, 40, 50s. But that's about, I don't know, some percentage of the people on Facebook. And I'm going to do this, in the United States to start with, because that's the first country I would do, And then, I'm going to assume that this is going to increase the number of sessions per day for these people. So if today, for example, they look at Facebook during the day, I don't know, maybe 20 times. I don't know how many times you look at Facebook. Is that about right? Then I would say, let's say that this increases by 50%. Okay, I'm going to assume that it will increase the 50%, much more sessions they're going to do per day. And so that's going to be the incremental, right? The incremental per session of sessions. And then I'm going to calculate, how many ads they are being exposed to during those sessions to take, calculate the dollar amount and multiply by the number of days. How does that sound to you?
Yep.
So, you explain that from the top, right? And now, this is also for you, is really important because you can get really confused when you do this yourself. You can confuse yourself. So the first thing is, don't do any calculations, just put the logic, okay, here, users. So now here, you're gonna say, okay, you know what, these users are going to be 30% of, I'm gonna say 30% of Facebook in the United States. And they're about 300 million users in the United States. Okay, so that's 30%, right? And then in terms of the number of sessions per day, I think that my friends, that are young and looking at Facebook, they're probably looking at Facebook like 20 times a day. So I'm going to assume that with this new application, those guys are probably going to do it, 50% more. So I would say 10 sessions more, okay? So this is 10, this is 30%, so that's 30, so that's 90 million. Now I have 10. Now the dollars per session, okay, let me calculate that by saying, there are going to be some dollars coming from click ads, right? And then there are some dollars here that are going to come from impression ads. Okay, so let's look at the dollars for click ads. Okay, and remember, this is per session, right?
Yeah.
So this is per session. Okay, you know what? This is going to be, the number of ads that I'm going to see, the click ads in ad session, times, the click-through rate, the percentage of them that, people click.
Yep.
Times the cost of that. Okay. And you go to the interviewer. Do you agree? Right? Any questions? And then on the impression side, again, this is going to be the number of impression ads that I see on that session times the cost per 1,000 impressions. And I'm going to divide this by 1,000 because we need to count the cost per, one impression, right?
Yeah.
All right. So now you show this, and you're showing the logic. There's no dispute. If they confirm that this is right, now all you have to do is put the numbers, right? And then go bottoms up. And so that's why I love this, because you're not mixing numbers and explaining. You first do your explanation, right? And so now let's go bottoms up. So how many ads do you see per session? What's your guess? Click ads.
Oh, I don't know, like maybe 2 or 3.
Maybe 2 or 3. Okay. Let's put here 2. Oh. How about so CTR? This number you need to know.
It's
Okay.
like 1% or something. Right?
1%. Then 1 and 2. I would say 1%. Okay. How about CPC? I would say it's 50 cents.
Okay.
For Facebook, right? And so now let's start calculating here. Okay, 2 ads, 1%, 0.05. This is $1, right? So this is 0.01.
Yep.
Am I right?
Yep.
1.01. Yes, 0.01. Okay. So now for impressions, do you see more impression ads per session? every time you log into Facebook?
I don't know.
Well, I think I do see.
Okay. Well, it wouldn't really matter though, right? Or
Well,
would it? Should we just assume it's the same?
Let's say it's the same amount.
Yeah.
I think that probably is 50%, 50%.
Mm.
It gives us an impression, okay? So CPM, it's about $1. Again, this you need to know, right? And then 1,000 impressions. So that's 2, that's 0.002, right?
Yep.
So now here you have 0.012 dollars per session, and you have 365 days. Okay, very well. So now I'm gonna get the total. So the total is, and this is, total ad revenue. It's gonna be the 90 million times, 10 times 0.012 times 365, right? So let's go here through this. So 10 times 0.12, so that's gonna be 0.12, right? I'm gonna put this 0.12. No, 0.01, excuse me. 0.12, excuse me, it's 0.12.
Yeah.
Okay, 0.12, you have 90 million, and you have 365. So that's about, this is 700, about 720 over 2, right? This is
That's
0.12,
108, basically.
that's 0.6, right? Okay, so that's 90 times 0.6. 90 million, so 90 million, 0.6, and 720, that's about 45 million, right?
540.
45 million, 720. Okay, and here we can do some math. Okay, does somebody have a
That's actually, it's 54 million instead of 45, Marina. The 90 times 0.6.
Okay, 54.
Yeah.
But to do this fast, let's say it's 50.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. So then they'll make it 310. Oh, sorry. No, 360.
I'm sorry?
300. 50 times 720 is 3600. Unless my math is all. Let me double check that.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
No, I was going to say, if you're rounding the 54 down to 50 and multiplying that by 720, then that should be 3600. Yeah. 3600.
Yeah, so 36,000.
36,000.
Yeah. 2 million, okay. So that's, how much is this?
36,000.
36, okay. So that's about 36 billion, right?
Yeah.
So that's too much, right? So when you get to this point, you say, okay.
I think it is 3.6 billion, right?
36 billion, right?
Okay.
Well, hold on. Actually, 100.
Yeah, that's right. My bad.
Yeah, which is too much, actually. Yeah.
Which is too much, right? Because Facebook made 40 billion like last year. So at this point, you say, okay, so something is, you are exaggerating something here, right? And if,
I think we're assuming that there are 90 million people who will end up dating. I think that was a mistake.
So I would say that it's not 90 million, it's probably 1/10 of this.
Yeah.
So maybe this is like 9 million, right?
Yeah, because it's a subset of the users of Facebook who are interested in dating. So even though they may be like, 90 million.
Yeah, even that's kind of large. This would be 3.6 billion, which is a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's better than this number. So that's how you go about, gauging also whether you're too off, right?
Yep.
Because here we're using 100% penetration, which is not true, right?
Right.
And so you say, well, 3.6 billion, that's pretty good, right? That's not peanuts. So I say, you know what? This is a done deal, because if you look at the cost, Now let's look at the cost, right? Okay, let's look at cost. I would say engineering workforce plus infrastructure. So engineers, how many engineers do you think you need to do this?
Oh. Actually, I'm gonna keep quiet because I feel like I've been talking too much. Sorry.
5 engineers, 10 engineers?
I'll go more for 10.
10. Okay, so 10 engineers, and let's say that they cost the company about 200K, right? So right here, yeah, that's $2 million, right? And here, okay, the infrastructure, how many servers do we need for this? Like how much Amazon charge? Like if you were having a server, for an entire year.
That cost would practically be negligible because they probably have plenty of capacity from AWS already that they're using for the regular thing. Plus, Facebook probably has their own infrastructure. So, like, I would think then the cost of infrastructure would be negligible.
Really?
I mean, because basically you're just hosting another server, a dating server, which to Facebook is kind of trivial. I don't know. Logan probably know better.
Well, yeah, I mean, granted, they already have probably the data, right?
Yeah, I mean, they've got everything. It's just, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So let's say that this is $2 million. That's nothing, right?
Yeah.
So the upside is incredible. So yeah, this is a done deal, and probably that's why they're launching it.
I have a question regarding like kind of figuring out ad dollars. So like let's say I also want to account for the fact that now that we know essentially more about people based on the fact that which kind of people they like and dislike. So we have more personal data on their preferences. How do we kind of track that kind of ad? So essentially, since we have more preferences, it would lead to more curation of better the ads that would essentially get maybe more click-throughs or more engagement with the users. How do we monetize that? The fact that like we have more data. I mean, in one way or another, like that might the fact that might improve cost per click, but I'm not really sure how we could map that into a dollar amount.
Yeah, I think that is I think that you're going too much into details. That actually it would be really hard to quantify, right? Because you're saying basically that your hypothesis is that you have better data about a person, and therefore you can target those ads better, and therefore there's going to be an increase in perhaps CPC and all the stuff. But that's really hard to deduce because, first of all, I'm not sure that you're getting any data that is better, right? Because people are finding each other as for dating doesn't mean that they're providing better data than already have when they're posting things. Second, bidding and the CPC and the cost of that is all automated, right? It's done by algorithms. So that that I think that requires major science to figure out.
A lot of like unvalidated hypothesis to even follow that train of thought. Yeah.
Any other thoughts on this? What do you think about this approach from this book?
So I had a question on that actually. So you jumped into an estimation thing, and that was really good, but that was not my first instinct at all to kind of do such a quantitative analysis of whether it's worth entering the market. Like, is that standard? Like, whenever that question is asked, you automatically have to think of an estimation?
Well, I've been told by people that interview with Facebook that they want to see that numerical chops.
Okay.
In their PMs, and so they will go in. For example, I remember somebody was asked, "What's the, tell me the opportunity, whatever," and they wanted a return on investment number, right?
Okay.
So I would say that if you don't provide it, they will ask you, Okay, it's like, okay, because they want their PMs to be to make decisions based on data,
Sure.
right? Not intuition.
I have another question regarding prepping for product execution. I know we are closing, like it's we only have a few minutes left, but so I personally also prepared for like consulting cases, and I just don't remember much about the frameworks, but I find those more useful. And a lot of the books that I've read, they don't really have a specific way to approach, like how would you break down any product execution question, because they combine like a little bit of strategy, a little bit of metrics, a little bit of this and that. So there's really no one way to any one, like I guess, framework to stick to or one way to prepare for it. So since I have an interview coming up soon, like I guess what would be your suggestion to at least kind of have the fundamentals down when it comes to approaching product?
So see the different types of questions that you would be asked at Facebook are very limited. Okay, they will ask you first of all a product design or product sense question, right? For that, there's a definite way to do it. The circles method is quite a good one. Then remember that interview is going to be a conversation. So after you do that, they're going to say, hey, well, how are you going to make sure that you're successful? Okay, that's a metrics question. Okay, and there's a framework that I provide in several of my blogs for that. Then they may tell you, hey, how are you going to get this to market? Again, I provide a framework in some of my blogs. Or they might say, all right, they might ask you a strategy question like this one, right? New market entry. Will they ask you another type of strategy question? Well, what other they are? Growth. They may ask you a growth question, right? And for those...
What question?
Growth, right? So
growth question, okay.
Growth questions. And usually the types of growth or analysis that they want you to explain are more, I would say, intuition driven. Like there are growth frameworks for classic consulting questions. Okay, those I don't suggest to answer a product management interview question where they're asking you for growth, because when they ask you a question for product management in terms of how you're going to grow this product, they are really trying to see whether you have intuition as to, hey, okay, so if this is a matter of, you have to see if this is a product that is being used all the time, okay, what's the best way to grow it, right? Like it's high frequent use. Well, you have to look at what's there to hook the user into it and get it come back again and even more, sort of like more like the hook model, all right? That what's his name? There's a guy that wrote about it, right? They will not ask you a question where you have to do the typical consulting analysis, which is, oh, growth, yeah, sure. There are different ways of growth. We can, increase value, which means adding features to the product, or we can also grow by competing against the competitors, and by that is like doing something that they're not doing. Or we can grow also. Another way to grow is by basically buying, right? So you can either do a merger, or you can acquire, or you can even do partnerships. Those are like typical consulting types of solutions. And if you answer that, they're going to see you as a consultant. That's not what they expect. They actually expect some kind of insight into the user, which is much more related to the hook model. Like, how do you get people, consumers, users to be more hooked into your product, get them to use them more? That's sort of my take on this.
Awesome, thank you.
So Marina, would you recommend to use a similar kind of framework for questions like why Microsoft acquired LinkedIn and stuff like that?
That's a different one. That's a very competitive strategy question. And the way I would do that, for Microsoft is look at, hey, look at Microsoft and look at the competitors, okay, in terms of, the social network, right? So they didn't have any social network. And what's the way for them to grow their products? So they need that. Why? Because there's more collaboration in the world. Where are things going in terms of, the social aspects, technology, things like that. So from that perspective, you have to do a competitive strategy analysis, right? So you look at Microsoft, what is it that the competitors are doing, right? Where does Microsoft need to go, right? First of all, what are their products? You need to start with that. Cloud, right? Office. Major one, cloud, office. They have CRM, right? And other kinds of applications, right? How is the way to grow that, right? And if you think about that, then it makes sense that they bought LinkedIn.
Got it. Makes sense. So basically, if the question is framed more like, should Google acquire this particular company, then it's primarily, should Google enter into this market, right? Which is basically this framework.
No, that's a different question.
Okay, that's a bit different.
Companies, right?
Okay, makes sense.
You could acquire a company for its technology or for its engineers, its company, or for the market that they have, or for the sales team, sales knowledge. It's different.
Okay, makes sense. Okay, got it. This is more for market entry.
Yes, I would say so.
Okay, cool. Thanks a lot.
All right, guys. I'll see you next time.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you, Molina. Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night.